Welcome back to AM Northwest. Our first guest says Americans spend 25% of their food budget on food that they never eat. And she decided to do something about it in her own family. So here to share the story of her life without food waste, we welcome the author of No Scrap Left Behind, Teralyn Pilgrim. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, you
and
too.
What a great idea. So let's talk to me about how you were motivated. What inspired you to go in this direction?
You know, there were so many things. Like, I think I just realized I was in this destructive cycle, you know, and like feeling bad every time I threw away food and thinking like, I don't have to feel bad because I don't have to do this.
Yeah.
You know, and they said I would save $100 a month, and I did, like, right away.
Who's they? Who's they?
So there have been statistics about this. Like, it was 2016 when they first figured out they were wasting 40% of all the food that we produce.
Wow.
Yeah, nobody knew until then. It was Dana Gunders. She did that research.
Okay.
And so then they calculated, like, how much money that was all costing.
Yeah, because it's costing us money.
Yeah. It's costing everyone money.
Everyone money.
And,
So you have kids, right? Married and how many kids do you have?
3.
And when you look back on what you were throwing away, can you remember what you were throwing away?
It was mostly leftovers.
Yeah.
So the way I was raised is we'd make a big batch of food so that we don't have to cook every night.
Right.
And we would eat through it and then not get to all of it.
Yeah.
And then I'd have like a stack of leftovers.
Right.
And I just realized all I needed was some planning, you know, thinking ahead of time about how long I would take to eat through a thing.
Yeah.
Using my freezer, people don't realize how much they can freeze.
Yeah, you can freeze a lot more. Oh, you have some great tips for us, so let's get to some of those.
Okay,
so
great.
let's start with this first tip here.
So you can pickle most vegetables, right? And actually,
because the vegetables I know get thrown out quite a bit.
Right, but pickled lasts forever. So these are some green tomatoes that I pickled last summer, and they've been in my fridge, and they're like great on sandwiches because they're still crispy.
Yeah,
they got a nice crisp. But the thing with cucumbers is you can't really cook them and you can't really freeze them because the freezer makes water molecules expand. And if it's a high water content, they'll burst and make the food soggy.
Okay.
So what I do when I can tell that my cucumbers aren't going to make it is I just pop them in pickle juice.
Have your kids adjusted to your new behavior?
Oh, yeah. I mean, so whenever there's extra food on their plates, they'll be like, Mom, do you want this? Dad, do you want this? And yeah, and they'll like wrap their own food and put it in the fridge. So it's easy to teach kids lifestyles when they're young.
Right.
You know. Anyway, so you can cut this into any shape you want, you know, if you want to get spears in there. Most of these vegetables will take a couple days before they taste pickled, but cucumbers by the end of the day
are pickled.
Yeah, they'll soak up that vinegar.
So if you're saying if you have any of these left over, why not pickle them?
Yeah, just pop them in.
Okay.
So, yeah, my kids love pickled green beans. They'll eat them, like a whole jar of them.
Yeah. And then you have the pickled eggs. Pickled eggs are so good.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. These are actually pickled in peppercini juice, so they're kind of spicy.
Oh, really? Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. Okay, now you have what's left over. Potato skins are left over when you peel a potato.
Yes. So it breaks my heart that I went so long in my life without eating potato peels because they're so good. Why don't you go ahead and try them?
Yeah.
While I peel this one.
Okay. Oh, that is good.
Right? Right? It tastes a lot like chips, but kind of with a more earthy flavor to it. So I think
great.
I think the best. Oh, and also my kids are always like, I'm so hungry before dinner.
Right.
And so I'll just, you know, deep fry these and then have them on the table while I'm making mashed potatoes.
You could do that in your air fryer too, couldn't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
And you can also bake it. So all you got to do is make sure you have enough oil that that's probably even too much oil, that they're completely coated.
Okay.
And then you got to lay them flat so that they're not touching. And you bake them 400 degrees for about 10 minutes. They do burn easy. That's why I got aluminum foil. So you got to make sure you check it until you.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I'm taking another one.
Oh,
that's
help
really
yourself.
good. I love it. Okay. Baguettes.
All right. Baguettes. So we love baguettes, but they get dry so quickly.
Sure.
The way that you get that texture on the crust is steam, actually. So when you cook baguettes, they'll like spray it or put a casserole dish of water in the oven. Right.
Okay.
So you don't want to just cook them, you want to steam them. So what I do, get some aluminum foil. You can rinse it briefly in water.
Okay.
Right. You don't want it to soak through the crust, but you want it wet.
Okay.
Or you can just spray it generously.
Did you have trouble getting everybody on board with your new idea of limiting food waste in the house?
No.
Your husband was on board right away?
I was surprised at how supportive he was.
Oh, great.
Yeah, he's always been a super supportive husband.
Yeah.
And like I said, my kids were young, so it's just, you know.
This is the way we're going to do things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, that's just how they were raised. Actually, when my daughter was 5, I picked her up from kindergarten, and she looked sad. Like, I could tell something was wrong, and I was like, what's wrong? And she goes, my teacher told me to throw away my lunch because they didn't finish it. And she just, like, didn't understand, like, why would a grown-up do that?
Right.
You
Oh,
know?
that's interesting.
Yeah. That's just how they were raised.
Yeah.
All right, so let's see. If you've already cut it up into slices,
Okay.
you can do the same thing. And it'll soften them up.
Yeah, that's a great idea, Teralyn.
you.
That's a great idea.
All right, so let me get both sides, and then you
Okay.
cover it in aluminum foil. So let's talk about times. You put the baguette in the oven in a cold oven, and then turn the temperature on to like 425, and keep it in there for 12 minutes.
Okay.
Right? These you do the same thing, but for 8 minutes.
Okay.
These will go stale really quickly after you do this. So you want to make sure to eat it right away.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay.
All right.
Great. All right.
Lettuce. How many of us waste lettuce?
I can tell you that in our household it gets wasted. Yes.
So if your lettuce is starting to get wilted, you just put it in some cold water, and it just soaks it right up. I had some mustard greens that were limp as a cotton t-shirt, right?
Yeah.
And I put it in the bowl, and I had to keep refilling the bowl because it soaked up so much of it. Right?
So it's limp, but but you can't use it in any meals once it's brown, right?
So when something's brown, it's not unsafe, you know. So, but the challenge with lettuce is like the cucumbers, you can't really freeze it, can't really cook it.
Right.
So
But you're right, it does get limp pretty fast. Lettuce does, yeah.
Yeah, but when I come home from the store, I put it straight in the bowl because it will get more crisp than it was at the store. If you do this.
Okay.
But here's how to store it. So get the aluminum foil because you don't want a whole bowl in your refrigerator.
I was wondering how, yeah.
Yeah. So make sure it's nice and wet. Wrap it up, and this will keep for like a month in your fridge. Yeah. And every time you get it out, just make sure that it's still wet.
Yeah.
Put it in your fridge, and that's it.
Great idea.
Thanks.
Now you have an idea using tortilla chips.
Yeah, so sometimes tortilla chips get dry and then they get brittle. You can, sometimes you can soften them in a skillet. Sometimes you can cook it like with enchiladas where it's drenched in sauce. But if all else fails, frying them into chips, or have you ever had tostadas? You put like stuff on the...
Sure.
Yeah. For flour tortillas, my mom would dip them in cinnamon sugar. This is like a treat from my childhood.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, give it a try.
Yeah.
It's so easy to make. Kids love it.
Yum. That's great.
Okay.
That's easy. That's a great idea. Okay.
Yeah.
French fries.
French fries are
French fries,
tough.
Yeah, I was going to say, they never taste the same the next day.
Well, it depends on how you reheat it.
Okay, tell me about that.
But yeah, no, they're so hard and so tough. So the best way I've found to reheat French fries is to saute them with a generous amount of oil.
Okay.
You don't have to fully deep fry them again.
Right.
But it's the oil that makes them crispy. Now, you cannot put them in the microwave. Well, I mean, you can. There's no rules here. You can do whatever you want. I don't recommend it because what microwaves do is they make water vibrate to create heat. But that basically means you're steaming your food. And so if something's fried, it's going to go limp. You don't want to steam fried food. So you got to have a heat source, air fryer, oven, or whatever. So you can bake these in the oven, 425 degrees for about 4 minutes. Every oven is different though, so you might want to get like a small handful
and
to
try
test
it out. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Oil is. I love this more than just drizzling oil because it's perfectly even. So you just get generous amount.
Perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. And my husband and I blind tasted these. Like, we spent a lot of time experimenting with the best way to reheat fries, and great. This worked out great.
That's perfect. We want to tell everyone, now you have a book event, right? Tell me about that.
Yeah, my book release or book launch party is tomorrow at Annie Bloom's Books at 7 o'clock. So I'm going to be teaching people. I've got like a 9-step program.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I'll have a reading, and you can meet other people who are interested in the topic.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And the book again is titled No Scrap Left Behind. Teralyn Pilgrim, great job. Thank you so much. Great ideas here.
Thanks.
All right, we'll be right back with more AM Northwest. Don't go away.